Dear Blended Learning Mastery Series colleagues, my name is Sarah Barnhart, and I want to welcome you to my capstone project for spring 2019. And the project is redefining and redesigning blended learning in my department, which is Academic Literacy and Languages at the Community College of Baltimore County. This is a community college in the state of Maryland. It's in the county outside of Baltimore City. So I want to start the presentation by giving you a little bit of background information. The project's going to take place in the department that I work in, which is Academic Literacy and Languages. And the department has 3 disciplines. Academic Literacy, which is a pre-credit reading and writing program, so students place in there, it's basically remedial. World languages, we have many world languages, but the one that I will focus on in this project is Spanish. And English to speakers of other languages. We have blended courses in all of these disciplines. They've been developed at different times over the last 10 years, and they've been developed pretty much the same way, well, exactly the same way. It's a 50-50 blend, but the design looks different for each one. Each of the courses looks a little bit different, and the navigation's a little bit different. At my college, at CCBC, we do have a definition of blended, and it's divided into on-site requirements, which talks about the assessments and regularly attending a lecture or lab, as well as online requirements. The problem statements that I'm going to be looking at for this project starts with the definition of my college for blended, because it's very generic. And if I go back, I say it creates a hybrid separation because, as you see on the previous slide here, it's divided into on-site and online. It's not blended. It looks like they're 2 separate things. So the definition also doesn't provide a way for determining the right blend of times. So there's nothing to indicate how we would figure out what would be the right blend of time. Finally, the definition addresses delivery, but not course design. So I'm going to present 3 best practices for overcoming some of these problems. The first one is getting faculty buy-in. From some of the articles that we have read, we have learned that it's really important to get faculty buy-in for a program to be successful, because the faculty are the ones who are going to be implementing. They're the ones who are in the classroom or online teaching the course. So my plan, and what I've already started doing this spring, is creating a task force, and it's voluntary. I put out a call for people who want to join, and it's cross-disciplinary. It's across the 3 disciplines that I showed you earlier. So we did have our first meeting. I'll talk a little bit about that as we're going through this. And so we divided the task force into subgroups by course. But I really wanted the subgroups to be cross-disciplinary as well, so that, for instance, if you had an ESOL course, the subgroup might be mostly ESOL teachers, but I wanted to have a representation of someone from, say, academic literacy or world languages in there, because our disciplines are related and we can learn from each other. Each subgroup has a chair for that subgroup, and the online learning coordinator, who is me, is also on all of the subgroups. The best practice, too, is creating a definition. So we needed to create a definition for blended learning that fits our department. So the steps were to send out definitions from the literature that I got in this course, and then based on the literature and our needs, as a group, the entire task force, we would create a definition. And then the third best practice is finding the right blend of time. And the way that we would do this is the subgroups will work on creating course alignment worksheets, and so to make sure that the objectives, activities, and assessments align, and then to look at what activities would be best suited for on-site and what would be for online. And we'd also look at front-loading versus back-loading. In other words, what do we have to teach students face-to-face, or what needs to be done face-to-face so that they can learn online, or what can students do online to learn and then apply it in the on-site part. So the result will be the right blend of time for each course. So here's an example. Well, here's a screenshot of the online course alignment worksheet that we will be using. And you can see that we have the modules, the module objectives, how they align with the Common Course outline, and then our assessments and activities and instructional materials. And this is going to show what would be the right blend of time. We would determine this. So this is just another screenshot of the implementation and evaluation, the project. You can look at the different steps. I talked about them already, but I think what's important is that the timeline, you will notice that we started at the beginning of May. It's going to go into the fall, and the rollout for the course, for some of the courses are spring 2020, and for some of them fall 2020, and that rollout is based on whether we're starting this courses from scratch because we're completely redoing them, or whether we're simply revising them. So the evaluation plan is two parts. The first part is Explore, which is what we're going to, that's the model we're going to use for creating the definition of blended for the department. And so in the task force, like I said, we're going to examine different definitions and share ideas. And to kind of jumpstart it, to get it started, I asked for one person to be a volunteer to create an initial definition so we have something to work from, and it has to align with our mission and vision statement in the department. So Joe is the person who volunteered to do that, and so far he has come up with a definition, and then others are working to tweak it, to add their ideas, and then in the end, as the online learning coordinator, I'll come in and look at all the comments, etc., and kind of put together a coherent definition and send it out to everyone, and if everyone agrees, this will be our definition. However, as part of the evaluation, we have to revisit this because after piloting the new blends in the spring of 2020, people might have different ideas. So then we would come back together again, which is a year later, to look at our definition to see if it still fits with what actually was implemented. The second part of the evaluation plan is design. And so we'll be using the design model because for the right blend of time, because we're redesigning the courses. I don't know how it's going to work out with the right blend of time. That's going to depend on the groups. Each course may be different. Again, as I showed you, we'll be using the alignment worksheets, and so the subgroups will determine what should be done in class and what can be done online, and they may determine that a course needs to meet 2 hours a week and 1 hour online, and maybe it needs to meet 2 hours a week, twice a week, or maybe once a week, or maybe the course needs to meet 1 hour a week. I don't know what it will be, but it will be based on what the group decides through a very systematic way by looking at the course alignment worksheet. And the subgroups will redesign the blends, we'll pilot them, and then we will evaluate the pilot through formative and summative assessments. In the courses already, these formative and summative assessments are already built in, so we already ask students for feedback on the course. We will also be asking the teachers for feedback also. And the last slide is my references, and that concludes my presentation for the Blended Learning Mastery Series for the spring 2019. I thank you so much for listening and following along. Best wishes to you moving forward.